morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody is safe and well during these crazy times. And my sincere condolences to anybody who has experienced loss recently. My name is Dr. Maloney, and like many of you, I am watching the world devolve right around us. There's a lot of uncertainty, angst, frustration, and fear right now. We have systemic oppression, brutality, financial troubles, coupled with a pandemic. What I'd like to do today is focus on some thoughts and maybe some tangible ways that one can make a difference and give some direction. I'm going to break these down into 5 parts using the mnemonic teeth. Yes, I know, that's kind of corny, but I got it honestly. And if you like any of the content today, please. So the first topic I'd like to talk about is the letter T, which stands for take charge. And by take charge, really, what I'd really like people to consider is to vote. This current president's judicial appointments have been a quieter project than most of his flamboyant presidency, but they're going to have longer impacts on healthcare, voting rights, criminal justice, climate, and systemic racism. While the U.S. Supreme Court is the country's highest judicial authority, and it attracts most of the national attention, it's really the appeals courts that have the last word on justice in the vast majority of cases. They hear thousands of cases each year compared to maybe the 100 to 150 that the Supreme Court does. And the current president has voted in 30% of the new circuit judges, which has a lifetime appointment, and their average age is 48. Whereas the Supreme Court, he's already nominated multiple new judges, and our 2 highest tenured judges, which are Democratic, are 87 and 81. And, you know, I wish them all good health, but if the current president gets voted in again and anything happens to any of those judges, he's going to get the right to select the new ones. And I think he's shown that he doesn't serve our interests. So take charge, go out and vote. Yes, your local voting, all that stuff matters, but I'm basically going from the top down. Because again, these are lifetime appointments. And once they're in until they're replaced. And a lot of these guys and women are going to be governing us for the rest of our lifetimes and making decisions that affect us and our children. So take charge and vote. All right, so the second point of teeth, E, is economics, which is probably the most powerful one of all. If we go back into our history, there's one event that kind of solidified how powerful economics are in our society. And if you go back to 2012, which was called the Sandy Hook Massacre, where a young man got hold of an AR rifle and went and shot up an entire school, killing, I believe, 27 people, including 20 kids. 20 babies between 6 and 7 years old. And obviously something so heinous and tragic, you would think, okay, finally we're gonna get some change. and it never happened in the Senate. And why was that? Because the NRA is one of the biggest financial backers of people in the Senate. And so not even massacring 20 innocent babies of all colors in their classrooms in cold blood could enact change for those that, put power and greed over empathy, including children. So let's talk about that in regards to black people. Black people have huge economic power. We're trendsetters. Everything we do, a lot of things we do, people want to be a part of. But the problem is, and there's a saying, I don't know the exact quote, but it goes something like this, is that black people's money is disposable. And to a large extent, it's true. Let's look in our own communities. Why is it that so many people set up shop in our communities that don't look like us? Why? Because there's great economic opportunity there. From Brooklyn, New York, I've been to corner stores that have bulletproof glass when you go into the store. Like, who does that? Like, they don't have to set up shop there. There's great economic opportunity. But the problem is they're taking that money and it's not going back into community. It's going to their communities or overseas. It's educating their kids. So they set up shop, make all this money, and all the money is just in one direction, funneling outside of our communities. So that's why when we use the term buy black, it's so important, because we know at least at the minimum that the money that you're spending, besides the goods and talented services you receive, will go back to your community. So that's why that's so important. If you talk about, economics in another way, there's large corporations that don't hold our interest yet. We still patronize them. Some of them, you can read in the news, clearly support the current president, or we've seen cases where companies put racist things on people's t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And, yet some people still go and support those companies. Home Depot, Marvel Comics, CVS, all, made large donations to the current presidential campaign. And we already explained why he's already shown that he doesn't have our interests in hand. So why would we support those people that give him money to allow him to do things he does and elect new judges, et cetera, et cetera. Recently in the news, a couple of weeks ago, we all heard about the story of Amy, what I call Amy Karen Cooper, a white vice president of a company who was walking her dog off the leash in Central Park and called the cops on a black gentleman who happened to be a Harvard-educated man, and she tried to use his blackness to weaponize him and call the police. And we've already seen on camera what happens when police interact with people of color. And recently in Buffalo, New York, people of not of color, with the cameras rolling. So we understand how dangerous that is. But on the side story was, I found out she's vice president of a company that I own stock in. So I called the next day, I put this on my social media page and called them to tell them the displeasure I had with the situation. And that same day, she was actually fired. Now, of course, I'm not saying it was my phone call that did it, but the point is that this company, they could be racist or not, but at the end of the day, Ms. Cooper was bad for business. And that's why she went expeditiously, right? So economic power talks. And I'm not saying the company's racist, I don't know, I'm just saying it doesn't matter because she was bad for business. Last thing I want to talk about is generational wealth. My son just got a job. He's an essential worker, works for a large grocery chain. And one day, he's feeling himself. He's like, hey, Dad, I'm going to order some Uber Eats. You want anything? So I thought, okay, good. This is a teachable moment. And I'm going to put cavities and diabetes and hypertension to the side. We'll talk about health a little bit later. But it's a perfect opportunity to talk about economics and finances. So I said, well, listen, you know, you can order Uber Eats, but you know, that car that's coming to drive you could buy Uber stock for about 20 bucks. The gas they use to get here, you know, Chevron and Exxon, you can buy that stock for about 40, 50 bucks. McDonald's is a great stock to own. You can own that stock. The Coke you get with your meal, you know, 45 bucks, you can own that stock. So the point is you know, short-term gains, but we're talking generational worth and being invested. You know, do you want to be a consumer, or do you want your money to be disposable, or do you want to create generational wealth for yourself? You know, I read something, you know, investing $25 a week at his age for 40, 50 years, you could be a millionaire just off regular gains off the stock market. So there's a lot of power in that. So, you know, the point is that Black people, we have the power. We just have to direct it to companies and ourselves that we're going to advance things that will help us in our communities, and not the 1% or other communities. You know, at the end of the day, you know, money is power, and that trumps everything. No pun intended.